my quilting friends. My name is Leah Day, and I am quilting another cute sashing or border design, and this is called Heat Wave. So this is going to be a design that you stitch half of it from one side of your border or blocks, and then you go in and quilt the other side. So let's talk through it. First, you're going to come down into the middle of the section with a long flame shape, something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. And we're going to pivot and immediately go inside with an internal echo, pivot and echo again. We're filling this up with these echoes that just add that random look to the design. Okay, I've got space for one more. And I've got a bag of beans here on my frame just to help weigh it down so that way I have more control over the machine. And now I'm going to quilt. I'm going to do a little small one because that point is where I'm aiming for. It's where I want to stop. Fill in. And whenever I am quilting something like this where, I'm kind of stitching this on a 1/4 inch scale, so I was really looking at the edge of my foot kind of as a guide. All right, now I want to stitch down and quilt the opposite side and kind of fill that in. I'm going to use my ditcher ruler here just to give me a nice straight edge. You could use, of course, a seam line. If you were in a real quilt, you would probably want to break thread and then go in and be stitching from the opposite side. And if you hear some funny noises in the background, that's Betty. She's on the floor in my long arm room having a fun time. She's trying to crawl and she hasn't quite gotten the muscles yet. So I'm just sliding over with my ditcher ruler. I can stitch a straight line by lining up. There's a straight edge line right there. I can line that up and roughly end up with a straight line across. And I really like working on this plain fabric sandwich. I've been playing around with lots of different ideas to show designs for you guys. And I really think that this shows it most clearly so that you can see what I'm doing and how to stitch these designs too. All right, to fill in most consistently, I'm going to travel stitch up and form a flame shape up here. And I'm interlocking it with the set from before. So I've stitched up here and I've left a little bit more space between where my needle is and this other side, the flame shape on the other side. And I want to leave a little bit more space between the flame shapes between the two sides. So I stitch down, pivot, come around. And you might be wondering how to fill in, like a half shape. Well, put your hand on one of the motifs from before and just kind of gauge how it looks, and that can help you know how to cut it in half. All right, so now let's take this flame shape up and interlock it with the side before. And I can make that super wiggly, I can make it less wiggly, it really doesn't matter. I'm slowing down carefully as I near that line of stitching. I don't want to overshoot it. And again, I need to get my bag of beans here and keep it right behind the needle, and that gives me control and the ability to travel stitch. I might have to shift them back as I stitch back. Nice big flame shape. And if you are worried about how this is going to work out through, let's say, a long border on your quilt, you could always mark, where you want these points to hit and kind of pre-plan that. I really like it to be freehand, really organic. But, especially if you were planning out how to turn a corner. Oops, there went my bag of beans right off the side of the long arm. And there we go. Scoop them back up. That's the thing, with the long arm constantly moving, the ruler base that is underneath it is constantly moving. And so that can kind of make things a little tippy. There we go. But yeah, if you wanted to plan it out, you could, or you could let it be really organic and freeform. The thing to be careful about is your corners. Turning corners with any design can be a little tricky, and I advise just working that out on graph paper. Come up with lots of different ideas, and then pick the one that you like best when it comes to turning the corner with any particular design. All right, so I've just got a few more flame shapes to fill in, a few more heat waves. Come in with a little wiggly triangle shape. And this is the thing, you can bring in that line as close over to the end, that area, and that minimizes your travel stitching. So here's what I mean by that. So I hit that point, swirl inside, do my wiggly internal echo, and then hit that point. And then if I bring this line down over as close to this as possible, well, then I'd have to do the least amount of travel stitching before flowing into my next shape. That one's really freeform. That looks good. You know, I think that the more different these look, you know, the less perfect and symmetrical, then the more they're going to look like they are free motion quilted on your quilt. That's kind of the whole point of using a freehand filler design like this. If you want all of them to look exactly the same, well, then it would be best to use a computerized quilting design, because that's going to give you that effect. Again, how do we cut something in half? Well, put your hand on top of it, take a look at what it looks like, and that's going to guide you as to how to fill in partial or half heat wave shapes. So I'm going to come down, form a point, and wiggle back up, and that is it for heat wave. Find many more free motion quilting designs, both for your home machine and long arm, at leahday.com/365. Until next time, let's go quilt.